Phones on silence. Just a reminder.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 5 p.m. on Monday, September the 9th. All board members are present except for Isaac Huddy, who I'm sure will be here soon, and our student rep should be here tonight too. Flag salute, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, it is a workshop. And luckily, we have Mike and Paul. And we're gonna go through early learning, correct?
That's correct.
And kindergarten readiness, because I know that's a big one. I know Mike, especially kindergarten readiness is big on your list. So you take it away whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you very much. It's always great to share the good things that are happening in Sultan. And so, first of all, we started transitional kindergarten this morning, which is that pre-kindergarten experience. 54 kids signed up and in classes, and all that is entailed with that. So, but it's very exciting. That program has grown by 36 kids this year.
How many classes is that?
It's 3 classes,
Three
groups of
classes.
18. So,
Yeah, that's a lot of
and
kids.
we have we hired some excellent people for the 3rd class, because the other 2 classes one was already in operation, the other was the Hay preschool here, and that pair took over here. Right, they're right there. So, and then the new one is Carrie Stone-Teal and Kyla Elkhorn.
How large is the wait list?
We have, right now, I think we have 5 or 6 on it. So, but we still have interest that is coming in. And so the word is out, which is good.
If we get another 18 or so, will we try to do another class, or maybe they,
no.
if kids leave,
For
maybe
next
then?
year.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I think the idea is we need to make sure we have the space, but we
Yeah.
also need to make sure that we, expanding, we put this one together since June, and that's a little fast.
Yeah.
Just to get everything in place, so anyway, so, I've prepared some slides, and I think Kayla will probably share them with you, but, they're gonna be on both screens, so, when I ask myself a question about early learning and kindergarten readiness, we have some resources that we can find on OSPI, but we also have some resources that we have here in the district. So, so as we relate to,
I have a different configuration, so
Oh.
here's the
Got it.
presentation behind you, board of
Yes.
directors, and you can follow on your package.
so thinking about, as we kind of narrow our focus this evening, so goal 4 of the Sultan School Board is about early learning, to identify and implement pre-kindergarten programs, learning opportunities to prepare incoming kindergarten students and close the achievement gap. Well, I think we started out on this journey that we're on right now with the transitional kindergarten pieces of it in 2020 actually, and really put several things in place, being the transitional kindergarten. That time David Madison was our person that we had in ELA TOSA position, but this was his passion, and so he actually built the class and then taught 2 groups of 10, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, as we were on that.
And the board had set this goal as part of
Yes.
the hybrid strategic plan.
Yes.
Literally, we were scheduled to visit, I remember it
Yeah.
because of the way it happened. We were scheduled to visit the Everett School District on March 13th, 2020. That's the day we shut down for the
Oh.
pandemic. And so
We did not go.
we did not go.
So, it's been a quick journey, and those early classes, that class was very good. We actually started in February that year, because we wanted to try to get it implemented. David left us after that year, retired, went elsewhere to do consulting work, and we hired Megan Hughes Clark, is her new name, married name, and she's been the kindergarten, transitional kindergarten since then. So, but besides the various history, that's kind of the local history, the state has also been working on this quite diligently. They worked on a way to fund through budgetary purview from OSPI, and then the legislature, and now back to OSPI has the look at it. So we are working on, I would say probably, well, when I dive into the data, it goes back to 12, but we've been doing the actual WA Kids assessment since 15. So we've had it in our kindergarten classes, and that's how we measure that. So, Kayla, if you could go to the next slide, please. So, that's the goal one, so you can go to the next slide.
Sorry.
That's okay, nope, you're working on 6 screens, I got it. So, so WA Kids is the indicator that all of our kindergarten teachers have to be, they take a class in the summer, and they have to learn how to do the observation tool. So remember, they're still teaching. We don't stop teaching when this is happening, but we collect information from kids that we observe. And so if you're a kindergarten teacher, that's one of the things that they teach you how to do is what you're looking for, and it's record keeping. We have a 12-week window typically. Early November is when it's due, and so they look at 6 domains, and you're going to see those 6 domains in the presentation. So they are social, emotional, physical, language, cognitive, literacy, and math. And so transitional kindergarten, part of the rules were that we had to do the WA Kids assessment, which is that moving the needle. But in the newest legislation, there are 2 times. We've always done it 2 times. We did it at the beginning and at the end. So we've been doing that since we started our program, because that would be best practice. How would we not know how those kids have grown if we don't do something at the end to measure it? So, so WA Kids is really the standard. It is actually part of the state report card. So if you Google Washington State report card, and you can go into Sultan, kindergarten readiness is one of the categories on the left-hand side as you go down the page. So it's something that everyone, including the board, is looking at. So as we look at that, I put in the PowerPoint, the next slide please. It's piloted in 10, 11, and they actually started doing it in 11 and 12. So it's been around for a little bit more than a decade, so it's good that we have something good. Teaching Strategies is the name of the company that has the WA Kids platform. They basically allow states to badge their own. We call it WA Kids, or Washington State, and it's kindergarten assessment of inventory of developing skills. And so that's how we came up with the name. And so that's what we use. And so as we dive into data, I'm gonna, if you're looking at the PowerPoint, I'm gonna load it. I've asked Kayla to load it about, we'll do it in pieces. So there are 3 slides that come next, and I started with the 23 data. And the reason I did that is because that's the most recent. So we get this data in about May by the time they get, I mean, it is available, but it's published now on the state report card, so if you want to see it. So one more, if you go one more click. So, that's not very big, so we'll do our best. So I told you there are 6 areas, and so the way that we look at readiness is in these 6 areas. And each one of those areas, there's a percentage at the end of that line. And so I'm looking at my paper, and it's not very big either. So Kayla, can you see what that bottom number is?
46.7.
Thank you. So 46.7% of our kindergarten and TK, because they're all lumped into the same number, had passed all 6. In 6 areas, they're ready, kindergarten ready in 6 of those areas. So when you look at the graph, it actually is it goes up and so the one at the very top is only 8% of the kids were at that 1 of 6. So we want to see those big long lines at the bottom. And in the presentation, I'll also share with you what's happening in our neighboring districts. So you'll see that later. But so I did this specifically, and if you click one more time, it's going to show us what the state average is. For last year was 57.9. So, and this is about 6 out of 6 categories. And that would be kind of the golden star, is that you get 6 out of 6. And you'll see when we go through these 3 slides, get to the next one, and it's a year-to-year comparison, so you can actually see how it came out. So that state, that's the all state across everyone that took it, and that was the average of the number of students that got 6 out of 6 correct. So last piece on this slide, and you'll see it in just, there it is. So now you're probably wondering, I have up there 160 students because it changes every year depending on the size of our kindergarten class. Last year we had 160 students that they were reported into the system, and so there's, if you look at that, in cognitive readiness, there was 110 of those kids that had 6 or that passed that domain. So just wanted to kind of explain the thing. And so there's the different 6 categories, and there are the
So can you give a little more how that domain works when you look at that graph up above?
So the domains at the bottom are specific about ways that you approach each one of those. So cognitive would be that you're observing behaviors that show that cognitive growth. And so there are certain things that they look for. They actually tell them kind of things that you would look for. They may do other things, but they have specifics. So cognitive language, their verbal use of language. Literacy, the types of things that they would be doing is reading, and remember that in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten, reading may be telling a story from pictures in the book. So that is part of literacy. That's the earliest forms. So there's math ready percent. This is the one you'll notice every single time it's going to be the lowest. And so that would be an area that my suggestion is we would really think about early numeracy and really look at that. We brought in someone from ESD about 4 years ago, and we opened it up to all the kindergarten and first grade. We may need to do that again, just get everyone back up on the but we also have a new math series that we just started today in kindergarten, maybe tomorrow. Lots of things going on, but you'll notice that physical is they are doing physical things, but the way they walk, they used to do the balance beam. I don't think they do the balance beam anymore because it's very low to the ground. So but maybe hopping and maybe jumping and maybe doing the basic skills that a 4 or 5-year-old need to do. And then social emotional. I was in one kindergarten class this morning, and they had already started morning circle. Today's the first day, because that's where it starts. Is every day they start doing that. They start building that capacity in kids to be able to regulate themselves, but also be able to regulate in the classroom and know how to, if someone hurts your feelings, they need to know that too. So, but that's all measured in these next 12 weeks, and so they'll all report it. I run the database on that, and we get it all done, and we have 100% participation pretty much every year. So it's just a, remember, it's not an assessment, it's an observation. So there's lots of things that happen. So the next 2 slides are exactly like this, but they go back a year each time. So Kayla, if you go back, so now we're looking at 155 kids. We had a 5 students smaller class of the year before. The state average that year was 53.1, and we had 37 point, I think it looks like 6 or 8.
8.
8, thank you. I think we need to make those things really small. Try to get as much on these slides as possible. So I'd like you to actually take a look at that, and what do you see? Do you have a question?
Not a question, but we did worse, or not we did, but the
Mhm.
kids came in less ready than they were this last year.
Exactly. Which, the inverse of that is that what we're doing with, within our district and what's happening with our kids that live in our district, it is working. So, that's a good observation. Anybody else?
The whole state average was down by 5 points.
Yep. So it's funny how they bounce. When we look at the trend line, you'll see it.
So these are post-COVID numbers.
They are,
And
yes.
they're improving if we're just going based on this year, the 23-24 data compared
Yep.
to the 22-23. So are you gonna show us 21-22
I am.
and show us that it's even lower?
It is. And then we would expect that. And so, I mean, I think that's just, that's being real, we just need to know that, you know, COVID was hard on everyone, including those that didn't have opportunities to have time with their social groups. You know, they didn't have that socialization because they were sequestered also. So, the other thing is that, again, math is the lowest here. Physical readiness is good. That means that we have kids that are active and kids that are doing what they need to be doing. There's always room for improvement, 85%, but that's the highest each time.
As I have looked at this data for many different years, the two that are consistently low are the two that concern me the most, math and literacy. And if you look at the bigger part of this, I would say no two communities are the same. There are different opinions. Some say, and it's been said, we're just a K-12 system. The problem with that logic is we're playing catch-up with kids from the get-go. And so to the extent that we can influence the early learning programs for kids within the community, will make a big difference in achievement, you would think, moving on.
Well, because you look at our math scores,
Yeah.
as we get up in
I think it's
grades, and
interrelated.
we know they're not good, so it's, they don't start out good when they get to us.
And it's more complicated than that, but those
Yeah.
are accurate observations.
So we're gonna go to the third slide because it's a repeat, but just a different year. So 140 students, right? And this is that reluctance of some parents to keep putting their kids into school because, you know, they still were concerned about safety and all of those things. Could have been any number of reasons. Could have just been, you know, 5 years or 4 years prior to that, not as many births. So it's really just, there's lots of, also if you look at the state data, it's 54.5.
What is the number? What is our number? I can't.
33.3.
33.3. And we will get this PowerPoint to you tomorrow.
I attached it to the packet.
Oh, it's, okay. So, any observations here?
No, I think just like we said, it's
Mhm.
getting better each year, but we're still not where we need to be.
Exactly, so, thank you. So Kayla, if you go to the next slide, that is probably going to be able to be side-by-side comparisons. So again, on the right is the fall 21, and on the left is the 23. So you can actually see that 6 out of 6. I know that we have discussions about is 5 out of 6 and 6 out of 6, should we use those numbers together? It depends on which domains they are not getting the last, you know, so this is the purest way, is the 6 out of 6, but you know, at different people will look at different things slightly differently. So I like the fact that the biggest long line in 23 is that in that 6. They all are that way, but there's more up to the top in the other two, 22 and 21. So that's one of the things that I noticed about this when you put them next to each other. Anybody have any other observations?
When you do compare 5 and 6 areas, combine them together, you always end up right around 60%. There's not a lot of wiggle. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great that
Right.
6 out of 6 is improving.
So 21's about
That's just
58,
Mhm.
Yeah, 58, the other two. are-
22's 59, and then 65 and 23.
Yeah. Well, hang on.
So, and these are our data for our kids, and we had a program that we started in truly fall of '21. We had a 6-month run at it in spring of '21, but really getting the momentum going, and we also have extended the length of transitional kindergarten in the last 2 years. We've been started on the 4th day with the other kindergartners. The second year I think we started in November, moved it back to October, and we finally said we just need to get it started at the same time. So there's data that drives those decisions, and these are some of those things that we see. We know that we need to get more. We knew this year when we had so much interest that we had to actually provide those additional opportunities. So, it's good, but it's, there's lots going on for sure in those classes. So, Caitlin, could you go to the next slide? So here's the trend data. So the 46.7 is where we end on 23. This is, I found this a little surprising because we bounced back and forth, and we bounced low on some of those years, and we've been very insistent about the training. And so when we have 2 teachers that are taking it this year, we had 2 last year. So we always get them to try to do their training in summer, midsummer, late summer, because it helps them be prepared. We actually have, last year we had one of our district, Laura Blasco, who works with Highly Capable, and the Sultan Virtual Academy. She had a couple of kindergartners, so she had to take it too. So we just try to do that to make sure that we get everyone taken care of. I do like the fact that we're on an upward trend, so let's hope that that continues. I think that the balance between 40, the other year at the beginning of the graph, 40.2, 38.7, and 38.2, I mean, those are very similar. 18, 19, we wonder what happened. But I think that's the way that the data comes out. So, yes.
Isn't 2020 the year Blippi was born?
Who?
Blippi, you've not heard of Blippi? Find that interesting.
What is Blippi?
Sorry, yeah, you missed us all.
Blippi started out as an influencer, and he's targeted at preschoolers, and he is fantastic. He takes kids on construction sites, and he shows them how a backhoe works, and he shows them how a bulldozer works, and
That'd be like Bob the Builder.
he has, yeah, but he's a real life person, and he's got quite the cult following of kids. If you
Does-
Google Blippi,
Yeah. Does he sing with kids?
Uh-huh.
Get him Good Morning song.
Mhm.
That's in one of the
Interesting.
I nannied, and the little guy was born in November of 2019.
Yeah.
He was addicted to Blippi
Yeah.
every day, and so we had it on frequently. It was free, and it was on YouTube, and you could stream it.
Taking kids to construction sites, let them drive backhoes, I see no problem with that.
No, that my husband didn't. Same thing.
So another set of good data here to look at,
Due for
some
60
good things that we're
million now.
looking at. The next slide, if you look at it, will be the comparison. I know some of you may be interested in this, but the comparison of boys and girls. The males end up being lower except for 1 year. Well, they were kind of the same, 21, 22. But now they're lower again from last year. So just interesting. That could be that development. We know that there's some child development that's going on here at those key ages, and so I think we're probably that accurately. It's interesting that the girls, when they score higher, it's quite a bit higher, like especially in 1920.
Not surprised.
So, and the last slide I have tonight is on the district comparisons. So, So so the state is at the top, we are alphabetically at the bottom of this, not necessarily the lowest scores, but I did them alphabetically. So these were some comparison schools. I did put in Monroe, which is much larger than us, and of course I put Everett in there. Kind of take a look at that. So surrounding areas, so this very interesting data here also. You have noticings.
This is one of the things that I just looked at when the numbers came out, I think last year, just the difference with our kids and how they're not ready compared to other communities around us. So,
Makes a difference.
It makes a huge
I think
difference.
we've seen this kind of data for quite a while, and that's been one of the concerns where you can get into the OSPI website, look at kindergarten readiness, and you can separate it by county and a lot of different things. Say, okay, where does the school district fit in? And it's a concern that especially early on in this, we were, towards the bottom end on being ready for kindergarten. That impacts a student, a family, a school district all the way through.
Yeah,
And
because
so
you
we
look
have
at
to
our math
control the part
scores and,
that we can control. And part of that is this continuing effort to recognize the importance of the readiness. And kids that are spending good quality time with appropriate play and exposure to appropriate things at home are becoming more ready than those that are not.
Do we know what other districts that have higher percentages are doing that we're not doing? I mean, is there anything?
Probably a good next couple of
I think you would see two ways I would look at that. From a standpoint of early learning opportunities, that would be one question. What is available, for kids? Daycare that are learning based, or appropriate play based, or just preschool opportunities. That's one question. And the other question would be, we did there's a program called Ready for Kindergarten, and it really involves the parent. When I was a superintendent in Eastern Washington, we did it to teach parents how to work with their kids, all the way from 2 years old, because not everybody knows.
Well, that's what my thing, like, how do we get parents
Yeah.
involved in this and
Yeah.
get parents to on board?
Yeah.
Well, I
And-
think just the fact that we have 3 classes versus 1.
Yeah.
I mean, we exhausted our wait list last year, and so.
Trying to expand that opportunity. And there's another piece of this we want to talk about, is that Paul and I have been meeting with Snohomish County and the Volunteers of America. We were going to take our developmental preschool and put it over at Volunteers of America, so that the kids that are in ECAP, that aren't even part of what we're talking about, they would have some joint learning. And the folks over there that are working with the kids will be able to learn from our teacher, and trying to create, with the control that we have, as much early learning opportunity as we can for kids.
That got squashed, right?
Yeah, well, we're still working on it, but there was so much, when you get to this kind of a partnership, the red tape it's like concrete, you gotta get through it, and we're still working on it. And we have a target to have it in place by next year. Maybe that wasn't a great analogy, but it is thick tape, let me tell you.
So if you
Duct
look,
tape.
Yeah, that's exactly what
look
it
at
is.
Lake Stevens and just the
5
growth
layers.
they've had, that's one of them. There's some pretty large growth there, so there's probably some lessons that we could probably learn.
Darrington,
Darrington,
yes,
yes.
that's crazy.
And the one situation there is that I don't know how much of a factor is, they probably have 1, maybe 2 classes of
Mhm.
kindergartners.
Yes.
So you have a small system, and the swing's gonna be much greater, one way or another. But I think from a school board standpoint, part of the exposure to this is to think about, what do you wanna see? As far as what the school district can do, and as we continue to build early learning opportunities this will have an impact on the overall school experience, no doubt about it. And so you have to think about, from a board's perspective, what do you want to, as you think about goals and you think about further endeavors. I think early learning it's not just a temporary goal. It should stay with you all the time, and that's why I have not felt like we needed to abandon that one at all, because as you can see, there's still a number of kids that are showing up not ready. And the amount of intervention that you try to do to get them up to speed. Sometimes it works well and sometimes not so much. And I think in a rural community like this, we're at more risk for not being as ready as you would be in other places, just because of the availability. I think there was some assessment that Snohomish County did a few years ago, and I think we talked about it at a board. Mike would have been the only board member there. We talked about it, and the lack of availability in Snohomish County was astounding. You know, separate from what school districts had done, just isn't available. And if you take all of ours out of here, what is there? There's nothing. You know, maybe a appropriate play-based daycare, but that's even a problem. So there is a big gap in this part of the overall development process.
It was interesting when we first met with, so the ESD up in Anacortes is our assigned ESD for our region. And we had Sarah Southard come down and talk it to us about, and she shared with us the data about kind of the child find data and the other preschool that they had collected. And those are things that are, they helped us move the needle and that we needed to. Because we started down the road, and I think that there's just more that we probably need to continue to work on. And I know that Heather and I had a great time at Gold Bar this morning for our first day, but it was, but it's good. Do you have any questions? I know, do you have something to say?
I just touched on it, Paul, if you want to talk a little more about. Yeah.
Just if you had any more questions?
Do we know where parents are getting their information on how to raise their kid birth to 5?
I don't think so.
That was actually one of our, when I was on the board previously, one of the big things that we wanted to do was, how can you prepare your child for kindergarten? You know, packets or something, because, you know, sometimes brand new parents don't know exactly how. The first time parents don't know what exactly they need to do.
And some of it was just,
Let's ask Kayla, since she has a 4-year-old.
It's TikTok, that's where everybody gets their
I was gonna say, I
information,
got a
is
4-year-old,
TikTok.
yeah, just went to TikTok.
And I know the county sends out, like, Watch Me Grow is what it's called, and they send you like a 1 month, 6 month, 1 year.
Did you have to register for it, or did your doctor sign you up for it when you had your baby?
I think it might have just come automatically, probably from a birth registration. I didn't sign up for anything, it just started showing up.
Okay, I call him my fake grandkid, he's, will be 6 in November. His grandpa works for the Center for Disease Control, and when I nannied for him, his grandpa gave me this information, and so I followed the CDC guidelines for his early childhood education. Not everybody has a grandpa, though, that works for the CDC that tells you where you could get this information, the app to download, the guidelines to follow. Maybe we should be promoting that and putting it on kindergarten readiness, or, you know, you have a baby before he starts school or she starts school. What should you be doing? And put that information out there for our community in multiple languages.
This is it here, it's through the Washington State Department of Health, Watch Me Grow Washington, and it included things like immunizations and
Okay.
all sorts of growing
So-
milestones.
another thing
Yeah,
that
stuff like
can
that's
be done,
wonderful.
and I think it would be worth researching, is they're ready for kindergarten. You know, there is, you can spend money that you have, like from High Poverty LAP or Title I, if there's any funds available. The challenge is it takes somebody that's dedicated at least part-time to work with the families, to make sure that the kits are being ordered, different things that are happening. And we were small enough where we had, 700 students at the time that we could do it. And there was a huge community interest where everybody kind of got together and we did it. And it's a program that was developed in the Kennewick School District. That, one of the board members had a PhD in reading or something at the time. And so they, it was recognized that, whether it was 20 years ago or 50 years ago or even today, is that early learning is important. And those initial developmental years are huge.
One thing that I looked at when we were looking at the data previously, if you look at kindergarten readiness, and then you start looking at the state testing that we have in the third and
Yeah.
fifth grade.
At that time, it was 4, 7, and 10.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're chasing,
Mhm.
you can see the number stays pretty consistent. You might gain a little bit, but the numbers, if you're behind in kindergarten, you're helping those children through the entire process to get caught up. And so the more that we can have our children ready for kindergarten, I think it's gonna help the classrooms, it's gonna help the teachers, it's gonna help the other students. It's gonna help students that, I mean, my grandson, he had a hard time, and he went to the transition kindergarten. I can wholeheartedly say, he came out and is truly ready for kindergarten. Loved it, absolutely, just, you know, and he was one of them that needed it. Not that his parents weren't helping it, he just needed some more help. And otherwise, he would have been probably behind. So, it does work, and I think we need to spend more time on children to make sure they are ready, whatever we can do. Because if we can fix what's coming in, it'll help the entire system. It's gonna take a little while to see those, you know, all those gains. But I'm excited to see what happens in 3 years from now when we're doing the standardized testing. To see our scores if they start to go up, because, I mean, a 10-point click in 1 year, that's huge. I'm really excited to see what this fall will bring. You know, are we gonna go up another? Because if you're talking about goals, I don't think we should stop, but I'd like to see us above state average this fall or next, for sure.
So can we take a look maybe at some of the districts that are doing better than we are and get in touch with them and find out if they're doing anything different than we are?
Right.
And maybe come back to us with some, you know, are there, you know, let's look into some programs to get information out to the kids and the parents.
So let's,
beforehand.
I think what we should do, where we should start is let's talk to some of the early learning regional leaders. Sarah Southard, I think is what you said.
She's gone, but
Okay.
Yeah,
Others in the area and say, who is sort of the lighthouse in this? Is doing a really good job, because this is truly a community effort.
Well, and I think for any topic that we have, if we can do something like this workshop where we talk about it and then we discuss, you know, hey, what are some things we might want to do? You guys look into it, come back to us. I think that's a great way to tackle a lot of these topics that we want to tackle.
And what we will do, does everybody know on OSPI's website where to look at this data?
So I had Caleb load it, so we can just go. So,
Hold on.
One step ahead.
One of the
Yes.
screens.
yes, one of them. So
We will do that,
OS
Gigi, and we'll report back. Possibly we'll have at least some preliminary information by the 23rd, but we'll see where we're at. 'Cause I know that there have been concerted efforts to address this very issue in many communities.
So OSPI's website is k12.wa.us, and so, and the easiest way I find to look at the data is on the state report card site, which is OSPI run. So if you just go in there, type in Sultan at the top and choose all schools, because then we include anyone who's at Govar or Sultan or any other place.
And you can break it down by school, compare the two, you can look at other school districts, a lot of things.
It makes it easy, yeah, to just.
There's quite a few resources that were some of the data all came from the state report card and other views. But on the actual OSPI website, you can just do Walk Kids, and that will take you into that site. And so it's, and they have lots and lots of valuable things. Just, you know, is that what parents need, or do we need to find something that's a little bit more engaging? Sometimes this is data that, or information that's good for the practitioner, but maybe not necessary for families. So we just, if we're gonna do something, we want to make sure that it's, you know, it's good for grandparents to pick up, or good for mom or dad to see it, and try to get it in many locations.
I'm just really happy to see our percentage actually go up. I think that's.
Some
very
good,
nice, yeah.
good news in this.
3 years, it's ticking in the right direction.
Yeah.
That's right.
3 points of improvement, or the trend, you can actually call it a trend now.
So Paul, you want to touch a little deeper on what I was talking about?
Sure. So last year we worked
Thank
with,
you, Mike.
like Dan said, with the VOA ECAP, trying to come up with how to partner with them to extend our developmental preschool program. We've talked about inclusion and integration. Part of the law out for early learning is that students with developmental delays have an opportunity to be exposed to the same materials and opportunities as their same age peers. So this was a way to do that. To combine with them was also a way to bring in our staff to focus on kindergarten readiness, so that a lot of the ECAP students, their curriculum is different than what we use. And unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily have the same rigor. Their focus is a little bit different from ours. And so some of that rigor isn't there around the areas that Mike talked about, some of those domains. So we get students that come in that are score significantly behind in social emotional, as well as in literacy and math skills. They're just not a focus there. And the hope was to come in, work with them, our teachers and their teachers work together to increase that rigor in those three domains for sure. The other thing with VOA and ECAP is they have family nights, part of their program, and we would have access to those family nights as well. So that would give us an opportunity to reach out and say, hey, here's some workshops we can offer around the academic side. Because I think you're right, Mike, they don't know, the parents don't know how to do a lot of these things. It's, when I sit in on child find meetings, parents don't have an idea. They don't know how to train their child. They don't know how to, the simple social emotional pieces. There's just a lot that they're missing. Letter sounds it's hit or miss. Parents don't necessarily read to their children a lot. So all those things are kind of missing. And so if we can be part of the family meetings that ECAP and VOA are, it gives us a chance to also say, hey, let's set up some times where you can come in and we can show you how to do this. Okay? It's something I had a lot of success as a principal on JVLM. We brought in and worked heavily on DIBELS and phonics and numeric awareness. We saw great successes out there. So we're looking forward to it. I hate to say the word squash, thanks Juicy. Just go with deflated. We're ready to build it back up. So we're still working with them, and we really want to make sure that this goes through this next year. For fall, Snohomish is the one that kind of,
Snohomish County.
Snohomish County is the ones that kind of deflated things, but they've also shown us a roadmap on how to get there. And so we
I
have
have a
now,
whole box of 3-ring binders with information as we pull the teams together.
okay, so. And I think another thing that we haven't looked at as we delve into data and look at ways to address early learning is also using some of the data that Kayla gets from tracking birth. A child is born, where are they living in the demographic area? If we had some of that information, we also could then send out brochures and mailers to teach some different classes. And it's just another way to reach out. And like I said, there seems to be a big gap with this generation in terms of knowing what to do with their infant or toddler. So.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this generation also is very digital reliant.
Right.
So even not even having to have a class, but having an online class or a recording or something that they can go, something that maybe Dave can help with on YouTube or
Right.
whatever it is for the district. What do you need? You know, what are some of the things that will help your child?
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where we are on the early learning piece. Mike and I work pretty closely on different pieces on, and that's this year. We were able to get some of our students that were in developmental preschool last year as 3-year-olds are actually in transitional care this year. So,
That was great, and you guys like stayed within 45 minutes, you got a lot of information, and we were able to ask questions.
You
Does
got a
anyone else,
deliverable coming your way, so it's really good.
yeah.
anyone else have any questions while they're still here?
I have a comment. When I was 22 when I had my firstborn, moved out here, we bought the house in '93, and he was a year old, and I had no idea you were supposed to read to your kid. You all know Deb Koppel. Yeah, I met her at VOA, the A-Frame at Playgroup, and she invited me and my husband to come. The school district partnered and had an author, Jim Treelease, come and he was so dynamic, but he did such a wonderful presentation on the power of reading to your kids. And they had free childcare there, they had food, and so we came as young parents and we walked away from that going, wow, that was really cool. We should start reading to our kid. And so we did. And I've watched my kids through the years, and it made a huge difference. But we didn't know any better until it was pointed out to us that we should. So I think we may need to nudge some of our parents in our district and say, hey, it couldn't hurt, right?
Food and childcare is a big win, I think, for most parents.
Yes, yes.
My question back to both of you, or all three of you, what do you need from us? Is there anything you need from the board?
I think what we need from the board is just the approval to move forward with some different options that are outside the box. I mean, kind of like I said, tackling, how do we get that communication once a child is born, if they're in our demographic area, how can we get information to them? I think the other part of that is how do we build the community into the support, so that we offer the things that, like Miriam was talking about, come in and read to your child is something they can start, before the child is born onward. So just some different things like that, trying to get the community also to take an active partnership with us as we start to address some of these gaps.
And I think we're open to doing anything within reason, obviously, but.
I think just to continue the mindset of building on what is going right now. Because there's a lot of different ways to do it and different components that you want it to become part of the culture and the community.
Don't ever hesitate to reach out if you need any help.
Heather?
Appreciate
Am I
that.
allowed to ask a question?
This is a workshop, so yes, you are.
Well, so when I had my children, most of my information came through the well child checks and the what to expect when you're expecting and the what to expect the first year's books that my pediatrician
Those were
provided.
wonderful.
And if you're talking about some sort of a media something, I would say, what partnerships do we have with the local pediatricians and what pediatricians are she actually seeing? Are they going here to Monroe, or are they going to the other clinic? And maybe there's some resources, quick links. I never thought to even think about going to an elementary school until my child was of elementary school age. Everything before that was just, parents
Yeah.
and whatnot. But the pediatrician is where I got all of my information, and so that's where I would.
And those books were our Bibles.
They were.
That's-
but I read them,
can
and that's not
confirm.
the media source that you tapped on. Maybe there's a more reader friendly way to put in small little nuggets of information for the parents.
Michael, do you have anything you wanna, any questions or anything?
I'm happy.
Right at home with a 4-year-old right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys, we appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Great job, thank you.
My 4-year-old's in the teacher right now. Or, not right now. First day today.
All right, well, we start our regular meeting at 6 o'clock, so can I get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.
See Isaac won't be there for,
He'll be here about 6 or 6:30.
Okay.
He's coming from South Bellevue, probably had a job out there.
Okay.
I did not
Dave,
sleep
did you see
well, and
Highland
I'm
Schools?
dragging. I'm gonna run.